My Lords, I rise to move Amendment 11A in my name, which I tabled after the discussion we had in the last day of committee, which we had quite an extensive discussion of the impact of the national insurance rise on charities. And as I sort of prefaced in the presentation last time, it started with a CEO of a significant charity who came to me and said if we could just have 1 year to sort things out first, then we would just about be able to cope with this. But the speed in which this increase is happening, the increase in costs, was just more than we can cope with. Now, I apologise that there's not actually a member's explanatory statement on this. That was entirely my fault. But to lay out for very clear clarity, this is intended to delay for 1 year for charities the increase in the employer's national insurance contribution. And it's interesting that actually earlier today I was actually hosting an event launching a report on the issue of debanking within Muslim charities and its impact on charitable activities. And there was much discussion at this event about the many difficulties charities are currently facing, but the top one that was listed after the issue that was under discussion was the issue of the national insurance rise, and again the speed at which this national insurance rise is hitting charities. Now, I note just some of the figures around this, that the sector has said that the cost to charities will be about £1.4 billion. Research from 400 charities by the Charity Finance Group says 87% are concerned about being able to afford this increase. 27% of organisations running charity shops say this increase is likely to result in closures of charity shops. That's the Charity Retail Association figures. And I think we're often concerned about what's happening on our high streets, and there's concern about perhaps the dominance of charity shops. But if those charity shops close, then we're just going to have even more empty shops on our high street, as well as the loss to the charities and the services that they provide and the funds that are raised. Just to take one example of this, which was reported by ITV, the CEO of the Little Miracles charity, which helps 50,000 families that have children with life-limiting disabilities, said it's going to cost that charity a minimum of £24,000. It's a small local charity with about 670 volunteers. So finding that sum of money is a really, really big challenge for that organisation. And I think it's worth noting just one of the reports I saw came from the West Lothian Voluntary Sector Gateway, and what they were told, the local council, was this wholly unexpected cost will inevitably place additional financial pressures on the already stretched third sector and social enterprises locally. That unexpected sudden arrival is really the issue there. And I think it's worth noting that I know the National Council of Voluntary Organisations wrote to the Treasurer, and in response to their request, their suggestion that charities should be exempted, Rachel Reeves responded is that the government is committed to providing support for public sector employers with the rising costs, but not anything other than the public sector. But I think it is really worth considering that the combination of austerity and ideology has meant many services, much provision that used to be public services, have now been, the slack has been picked up by the charitable sector, and so they're also then being hit again with this cost. So, my Lords, this is really a quite moderate, quite small scale. I don't have the capacity. Perhaps the Noble Lord, the Minister, could tell us what the 1 year cost would be. But what I would suggest what the cost will be if charities have to deal with this sudden increase in costs when they're facing so many other pressures as well. I beg to move.